The average person who collects is going to an LCS. They're going to maybe one card show a year if it's local. They're trading with their friends. They're having a good time. And if we want to get more people into it, we have to create more spaces for people to be
Yep.
able to ask dumb questions, for people to learn, for people to communicate, meet other people who like the same things.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Cards and Content. Today, we're going to sit down with Evan Parker over at Mantel as he and his team have come up with a really cool thing for the industry, or this idea of the hobby awards. So we'll understand from him on how that came to be, but also understand with him how he got into creating Mantle and what that has been like building that in a sports card and collectible space. So that's a fun interview we did with Evan that we'll get to here in a second. And then obviously we got our guy, friend of the show, Gabe Card Stacks, to talk all things college football, transfer portal window. We'll talk about some of the guys that have entered their name there, preview the big games this weekend for the first round of the CFP, and in what is coming in the college football card world. But first things first, what's on my mind as we start this episode has to be the biggest news in the hobby and the the last 7 days. Seems like there's a lot. This month has been pretty eventful, but yesterday, so I'm recording this obviously a little early so we can get this out in time. You guys know this is not live, but Monday, the news broke later in the evening that Collectors, the parent company for PSA, has acquired Beckett. Wow. I mean, obviously big news. Crazy. Crazy. This is humongous, a big deal. And just first things, you just start thinking through this is like, why? What's the plan? What is going to happen from this? Again, I don't know much about Monopoly, so I'm not going to speak much about, rules and regulations and laws and things I don't know anything about. First thing that comes to mind is now PSA owns basically 3 of the 4 biggest graders in the entire industry. I mean, they own SGC, they now own Beckett, then PSA is the granddaddy of them all. It's the biggest one. Outside of them, it's CGC. I mean, Tag kind of on the way up. We'll see what happens there. But really, the main 4 have been PSA, BGS, SGC, and CGC for a while. And that's not opinion-based. That is fact-based. I mean, if you look at gem rate, which we'll probably reference on this, in total items graded in 2025, PSA is 1.66 million. The second, the closest one to them is 425,000 with CGC. That's a respectable number. No other company on the list has over 100,000. No other company on the list has over 75,000. Beckett is at 74,000 at third. Tag is at 39, and SGC is at 35K. And the SGC one is interesting to me because in February, I think Brian has the date. February of 2024, Brian, was that the right date for PSA acquiring SGC? So he says, yeah, February. So almost 2 years ago it's been since PSA acquired them. I actually would have thought it was honestly earlier this year is when I thought it happened. Yeah, so I thought it was 2025. It's crazy to think it has been so long. It's February of 2024. And, thinking through that, okay, at the time, those were 2 of the bigger ones. Like if you look at some of the gem rate photos from around that sale, right? So you go back to January of 2024, right before the acquisition was announced. PSA was at 1.2 million cards a month. This is in January of 24. CGC is at 184. SGC is at 157,000 cards or items graded that month. Beckett's only at 58,000. To today, in November of 2025, SGC is down to 35,000 cards. So at the time, I think the idea was that SGC would still, again, this is a me opinion. This is not obviously PSA strategy, and you know, goals with the company. But I think a lot of people probably thought SGC would continue to remain a separate brand, continue to build what they were building there, just using some of the PSA blueprint. You could grow a separate grading company. You could use it for, you know, vintage. I know SGC has been a big vintage company for a while. Like, and I say a while because I think what's so fascinating about this is how the market views these companies now and how different that was pre-COVID, right? Because if you go back to pre-COVID, modern cards weren't really graded with PSA. They are now. They're 1.6 million cards, you know, or 6 items a month, you know, right now. Like, obviously PSA is the biggest grading company on earth. It is not close. It's not even a competition. They are in a world of their own. Pre-COVID, it wasn't like that. Pre-COVID, you got Contenders autos. You sent them to Beckett. You got, you know, Bowman Chrome autos. They went to Beckett. Like, Beckett was the company for grading pre-COVID. Obviously, a lot of things have happened, you know, turnover at the top. But Beckett was a big company for grading. It was massive pre-COVID. And you look at SGC, and SGC was a big vintage company pre-COVID. Obviously, so much has changed. COVID did a lot. Companies were open. Companies lowered prices, raised prices, shut down. A lot of things happened during COVID, right? Very, very different, you know, piece of time. Just everything was different during COVID. I mean, for crying out loud, we had Zion Base 10 Prisms at $900. But now you look at it, acquisition happens February of 24. In January, SGC's at 157. That brand, I mean, they're grading 35,000 cards a month. Why the drastic fall off? They're down 72% SGC is year over year. The first thought is in my head, the first thing that popped in my head is PSA looking to kill that number of cards being graded at Beckett, like what happened with SGC? Intentional or unintentional? Again, we'll never know. PSA is, you know, they made it, I think the announcement came out right before the National, or right around the National, that they were looking to transition SGC into a quote unquote boutique brand. That was the headline for that. Obviously they have done, I don't know if it's an obvious thing that they've, again, it's hard because I'm not PSA. I would love to maybe get somebody from there to understand that. But I think just looking at it, the biggest competitor, one of the biggest competitors, they were really close. CGC and SGC were really close in grading numbers in January of 24. SGC's below tag at this point, below, you know, that tag wasn't even on the gem rate picture from January of 24. Now they're above them in number of cards graded or number of items graded per month. That would be the first thing that has come to my mind is, will PSA look to slow down the grading with Beckett just like they did with SGC? Are they looking to acquire, you know, because it sounds like in this deal, it doesn't just come with like the grading piece of this. It also comes with Beckett, right? Beckett obviously has a massive online database. The Beckett magazine was huge, humongous when I was growing up. You had monthly subscriptions to it. They still do that. It was awesome. They did a lot of cool things. Beckett was the coolest thing to me when I was a kid. The Beckett forums. Beckett was the real deal. I love their slabs. If you ask me which cards from an aesthetic perspective do I want my cards graded in for long term, Beckett for sure. It's the nicest. The subgrades are great. The black labels, the coolest thing you can get in the entire industry. It's awesome. Aesthetically, it is, in my opinion, the best. Now, my opinion is not what matters. The market's opinion is what matters. And the market tells you a PSA 10 is the superior item. I mean, a Beckett 10 on some occasions is elite. You know, Jordan 86 Fleer, BGS 10 is elite. I don't even know if they, again, I'm speaking about hypotheses in these, if these even exist, but there's, you know, some instances where BGS 10 is not superior, but for the most part, it's cream of the crop. But the slab itself is elite. And again, I think it to be the nicest looking one. But what is PSA going to do with Beckett and all of the, you know, assets they acquire there? Southern Hobby, I believe, is owned by the same company as Beckett. That's a major distributor in the sports card industry. Again, don't know all of the fine details in here yet, but a lot to uncover. But I am very curious to watch 18 months from now when we see these gem rate numbers. What does Beckett look like? What does SGC look like? And what does PSA look like? Because right now, PSA is up 30, grading all of the numbers on, this is November 2025. This is just recently released December 1st on GemRate on Instagram. Shout out to them for these amazing graphics. They list all 5 grading companies: PSA, CGC, Beckett, Tag, SGC. Total items graded in the month, their month over month percentage, and year over year percentage. Every single company on that list, 4 of the 5, are up year over year. Most are significant. Tag, 203%. Beckett, 116%. CGC, 95%. PSA, 31% up year over year. The only one on that list that is down is SGC. It's 72% decline year over year. That is not a small drop in the bucket. That is a significant drop to a company that was once considered one of, if not the biggest competitor to PSA. PSA acquires, Collectors Universe acquires them, and it's very, very different, A year ago, November 2024, 129,000 items graded in the month. Now it's under 40. Very, very different. I'm intrigued. I'm curious. I don't know. I hope the Beckett slab, I hope the Beckett brand doesn't go away. Love their slabs, the history they have in the hobby, and I believe competition to be good. I am excited for what Topps is going to do, but I am a believer that Upper Deck and Topps and Panini should have access to players and athletes, because I ultimately believe competition increases, improves the customer experience, and I think competition is good and it's healthy for the market. And I think one company owning so much of it is not advantageous for the end consumer. It is not. It is good for everybody. Again, PSA has obviously built this. They built this massive brand before they acquired SGC. They built this massive brand before they built Beckett. So they've earned a right to build what they've built, because it didn't happen by accident. But I believe these companies being in competition rather than in one big conglomerate is better for the industry. So we'll see what happens with Beckett. But very, very interesting sale to wrap up Q4 and end 2025. I mean, we're 15 days away basically from the end of 2025, and PSA owns 4/5. I think the number is like 79% of items graded in November. PSA would now own those companies, or Collectors, excuse me. That's the parent company of PSA. But big sale, interesting to see what happens. Hopefully, Beckett still remains, and you can still grade with Beckett, and still, is a big part of the hobby, because that's a brand that's been around a while, and has has, I think, a lot of nostalgia, and I'm hoping they nostalgia for me for sure. So I'm hoping they stay around. We'll see what happens. More big news, different in terms of news. We've known this for a while. That's news. Topps Chrome Basketball drops this week. We said it when Topps Basketball came back about that being the biggest release, and it was, right? The transition from Panini to Topps in basketball, Topps Basketball flagship was crazy. Was one of the better selling products for us this year. Sold a bunch of it. Obviously, a lot of those guys are playing well. Knuppel Flag just put up 46 and 6 as a rookie. I mean, talk about impeccable timing. Topps Chrome Basketball, possibly, again, it seems like we're just going towards the biggest release ever, the biggest release ever, the biggest release ever. We're here with Topps Chrome Basketball. Flagship's awesome. That's a great welcome back Topps Basketball moment. Now you got Topps Chrome Basketball. You got gold logo, man. So you got a rookie class that is on fire. Knuppel can shoot the lights out. Dylan Harper. Ace Bailey, not bad. Derek Queen, stud. Cooper Flag. I mean, this class is awesome. Now we got gold logo mans. The Otani's at $1 million+ at bid right now. I think on Fanatics, Fanatics Premier. Now you got Topps Chrome Basketball, and we're dropping Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gold logo man patch autos in this product. What a time. Excited to see this. Yeah, Otani. It actually ends this week. It ends still at $1,050,000, 46 bids. But man, You're adding those to Topps Chrome Basketball. Aesthetically, these look incredible. This is a recent announcement too. Like this just happened. This product obviously comes out tomorrow. First day issue. We talked about this a little bit when we were recording. Obviously, it was like the first off the line for Topps, right? They dropped the basketball boxes. I think you got like a parallel to 8 or 12. Again, you got some nice bonus numbered cards, right? Very similar to like a first off the line Prism basketball type thing. And those boxes, I think, sold out right around like 1950, 1750, under 2K is where they sold out at. Those boxes on the secondary market right now are $3,000. I mean, the NBA license, I mean, they got Shea, Logo Man, Gold autos. These cards are going to sell for a fortune. Like, this is, man, I'm beyond excited for this. I think basketball, again, I think Topps is taking the quality of cards they're producing, game used, aesthetically great looking cards. When sports cards are on fire, marketing with the leagues. This is a post announcing the Shea Gilgeous Logo Man with the NBA. This is, man, I'm excited. This stuff is gonna be hot. There's gonna be a lot of demand for this, and it's exciting times right now in the hobby. The argument is going to be, and I know the argument's going to be, is this is going to be expensive. This is not going to be, $20 a box. These blasters aren't $20. We're past that point on this. That is definitely the tricky part on this, is there's going to be some retail. I'm guessing, I don't know the MSRP, what it'll be at, but I'm going to guess there's going to be some demand for those because hobby boxes are hundreds of dollars. Breakers Delight's $1,000 plus. Jumbo's almost $1,500. Those are 3 auto boxes of Topps Chrome Jumbo. 15. I think we're at a pretty competitive price, sub $1,300, and most are above that. So it's I would imagine retail is going to be the entry point for a lot, but man, you got case hits. You got so many of the guys signing. That's the other thing about this, is we haven't seen this in a while, right? We talked about it. I had that question a few weeks ago about this idea of like, if, would the market have exploded earlier if Topps hadn't taken exclusive athlete deals with like Stroud and Jane Daniels and Caleb and, Richardson and some of those guys, Bryce Young. Topps has these guys. Shea's in it. LeBron's in it. Curry's in it. Cooper Flagg's in it. Anybody you can pull that you would want to pull in this product is essentially in this product. Durant's in it. Wemby's in it. You can go through the list. I don't know if Giannis is on it, but they have all the big rookies. Yeah, Giannis. There's a Superfractor preview on Beckett. Shout out to Beckett once again. Beckett, Topps Chrome Basketball preview, has a Giannis Superfractor. Luka might be the only guy not on it. It's got Flagg. It's got Iverson. It's Topps Chrome. That's a big-time brand. It's been a massive brand. You're bringing it back with a hot class, all the guys auto potential for the most part, 95% of the guys you'd want. You had gold logo mans. This product's going to crush. It's going to crush. It's going to be humongous right at the end of 2025. You're going to see a lot of attention, a lot of big polls, a lot of big sales. It is going to happen. And then Topps also says, we got the buyback. We're bringing back the buyback for basketball. No real surprise. We've seen this. We've talked about this before, long before it was announced that it would happen in other sports. When they get the NFL license, you'll get the MVP buyback for that too. Now you're going to get $20 base cards. You're going to get refractors. You're going to get that kind of stuff. The ability to get store credit for your base cards of Jokic or Wemby or Shea or whoever wins MVP. You're going to be able to take those to your local hobby shop that you can trade in for more store credit. Yeah, it's Topps is figuring it all out, and it's it's full speed ahead from this point, and I am excited to see what happens with it. But clearly, it's clearly Topps knows what they're doing right now, so it's full steam ahead right now. So, again, full steam ahead on the Topps news. Signed an exclusive deal recently, just announced, I think earlier this week. Max Verstappen obviously didn't get it done this year. Did not get the title done. Shout out to Lando. Super exciting. Wanted to see somebody finally win other than Max or Lewis. I mean, I would have rooted for Lewis. I rooted for Lewis when he got robbed in Abu Dhabi a few years ago. But Max obviously didn't win it this year, but they announced an exclusive autograph deal with him. Historic partnership collabed with Max on a post. Obviously, love to see that from a social perspective. So all of Max's fans now know about cards, that kind of access, that kind of like access to Max's direct fans about his trading cards. Love that. I think it's so smart for Topps. An exclusive autograph trading card and merchandise partnership through Topps. So we'll see what the merchandise thing means. Interested to see that, but they posted a preview from a card from like it's like I'm gonna butcher that. I don't know the name. It's like a extravaganza or something. It's like a Topps product they release, I think only online, maybe to breakers. Not exactly sure where it releases, but it's this booklet of Max, and this card is beautiful. If you haven't seen it, check out Topps' post. The picture is nasty. It's an awesome looking card. Race worn patch auto of Max. But this dude is, I mean, Lando got it this year. Max has been king of F1 for 5 years now. I mean, he's the guy. He's always had the best card, the best, he's won what, I think 4 in a row prior to this year. Real deal for sure. Oh, the product, Excellenza. See, I was wrong. It's close, but yeah, that's where the booklet will be. But obviously a big time signing, and love to see the booklet added to that. Yeah, cool stuff, man. It's good times right now. We'll see what's ahead, but big announcement with Verstappen staying with Topps, and working together on a closer closer partnership. All right, fun interview. I think you guys are gonna like this one. Got to sit down again with Evan Parker, doing some cool things over at Mantel, trying to build a social app, and working on some cool things with some cool people. We'll kick it over there. I think you guys will find this one enjoyable. I know I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and he's doing some big stuff in the industry, specifically stuff that will be announced more tomorrow. So let's kick it over there to our interview with Evan Parker at Mantle. All right, what's going on, guys? We are back. Another interview today. Another great guest on the podcast today. Our friend Evan Parker with Mantle joining us today. We're going to get a little bit into Evan's backstory, and we're going to talk about one of the coolest things him and his team over at Mantle are doing right now, which is actually going to be dropping tomorrow. The announcement, we'll get into that in a little bit around the hobby awards, and how that came to fruition, what those look like in the future of those in this space. So, Evan, first off, welcome to the pod, and thanks for joining us.
I appreciate you having me, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. I think this is gonna be fun. And while I want to get into the hobby awards, how those came to life, like I'm excited to learn more about the backstory there. I want to start with your backstory first and foremost. I like to always kind of preface these podcasts with who you are and how we got right here.
I'm like the luckiest guy in the world, man. I've gotten to spend my entire career in and around sports, and I feel like if you're, I'm like one of 3 boys, grew up like as a sports junkie, and to be able to kind of make this my career has just been incredible. And I worked agency side for a number of years. I worked for NASCAR for almost a decade. I was at the Athletic before we started Mantle, and then Mantle now since 2023, trying to build a social network for the hobby, a hobby that I spend a lot of my free time and have spent a lot of my free time since I was a kid. And so I'm just like, I get to live the dream every day, and spend, I think, similar to you, where you sometimes you wake up and say, man, like I have a lot of friends who have jobs that they hate, who work in things they're not passionate about, and just like they just trudge through the day waiting for the bell to ring. And I feel like I'm one of the fortunate, lucky ones who gets to work on something that they actually spend money and time on when they're not in the office.
Man, that's the truest thing I've heard in a minute, for sure. I always said if I could make similar, even a little less money doing something I loved all day, that
Absolutely.
beat clocking in for a paycheck at a job I cared nothing
Yeah.
about and didn't bring me any happiness or fulfillment in life. So yeah, totally
Totally.
totally can resonate with that. But it sounds like you've got a pretty cool career. I mean, NASCAR in 10 years, the Athletic, those are obviously huge companies, huge brands. But tell me a little bit about your journey into like cards. Have you always collected cards? Is it like did you pick it up more recently after childhood? Like tell me a little bit about like
Yeah.
your time in, the collectible space.
Yeah, I mean, so I had two brothers, and so as kids, like that was collecting cards with them. We didn't have between the three of us, we didn't have much money to spend. But if we, went out and did anything for allowance, got a couple of bucks, we usually ended up at there was a card shop, a few blocks. It was more of like a variety store. It had a little bit of everything,
Yep.
and it had some wax and a lot of candy. And it depends on the day if we walked home with more packs or like sour straws, but that's sort of what we did with any bucks that we had. And like a lot of people, life comes and goes, and you get into things harder and softer at different times. But like the collecting gene for me has been there throughout. And it's gone up and down in terms of the things that I collect. Like I love watches. I'm wearing an Apple Watch. Doesn't really count for anything, but like I was a watch collector for a long time, and like I just have like a lot, toys and art and all this stuff. Like if I can get my hands on it, I'm the type of person who loves to go deep down the rabbit hole. I love to geek out about things. I want to be the guy in my friend group that people come to when they want to know about something. I'm not like ever the expert, but I always feel like I know enough to get you started. I'm like the gateway drug, like come to Evan, he'll get you excited about it, and then you go off and you get a little bit deeper.
I
And
love it.
cards have kind of always been there. Certainly over the last few years, like a lot of people, it's kind of reignited and my passion for it. As I've
Yep.
been able to go out and buy a lot of the things that I loved as a kid. I grew up in
Yeah.
like the late '80s, early '90s. Most of the things that I was able to buy at the time, weren't valuable, like in the heart of the junk wax era. But there were always things that you look at and say, man, one day I hope I'm able to afford that. And I can't afford most of what I felt like that about, but there are a lot of things that just because of like when we grew up, now are like attainable, and I'm able to get some of this stuff. And it's been a lot of fun to kind of get back into it and find the things about collecting that I've always loved. Like how do I shape my current, my PC now to fit myself as like a middle-aged guy with a kid. Like how do I build this thing that's different or the same as it would have been when I was 10?
I love it. Yeah, that's uh, it's cool. Like, I can see a little bit of the stuff behind you on the wall, but I think that's one of the things is like I've collected cards for so long. I resonate a lot with like the getting a little bit into everything. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a sports guy. There's a Pokemon original box
Hmm.
behind me. Like, this is again, you can't really see it up here, but like this is a ticket. I've got a
Yeah.
Ghost right over here on the
Yeah.
on my
Yeah.
desk. Right, I've
No
got an
problem.
OG Prism box. Like, I just
Yeah.
I have some Disney cards in front of me. Like, I love
Yeah.
the idea of like collecting a little bit of everything. But I want to pivot a little bit, right? Like, going back to like your history, like you're getting reunited in the collectible space. You mentioned you've always had it as a part of what you've done, but you were at again athletic and NASCAR. That's really cool, right? How do we go from those two to wanting to start a Mantle? Like how did we get
Yeah.
to there?
So everything I've ever done from a career standpoint has been centered around, I think, two things, like content and community. And it may have been, wrapped around racing with NASCAR or with the Athletic, telling stories with the best journalists in the world, or when I was on the agency side, I was part of the team that got to launch Xbox 360 back in 2005, and I got to do all
That's
these cool
crazy.
things. But like, if you think about like Xbox 360, that's video games. NASCAR is racing. The Athletic is journalism. But well, the stuff that I did, I didn't write articles. Like I didn't race cars. I didn't play video games. I was focused on content and community, and that's essentially what Mantle is. It's a home for content community in the collectible space. We're trying to build a social network that is for this industry versus having to rely on Facebook and Instagram and Reddit and all these places that think about collecting as just one of a billion things they care about. Let's build something just for us. And I was at the Athletic. The company was sold to the New York Times in 2022. And I worked for the Times for a year. And in that time, I got to be around a lot of really smart and really amazing people. But I realized over the period of that time, I went from this startup that every day was like trying to figure out how we were going to survive and thrive and how are we going to build something that nobody had really done before, to now we're owned by a company that's publicly traded, that's been around for 175 years, that is like everybody knows what the New York Times is. You may or may not like it, but you know what it is. And now like I started to feel like the ability to make things and feel like you're starting something from scratch and have ownership and entrepreneurship kind of went away because the Times, for all their benefits and faults, like they don't make a lot of mistakes because they
Yep.
take their time to make decisions. You'd sit into a meeting and they talk about something and be like, oh, we should do this. And when it was just the Athletic, if I said we should do this, the team said, yes, let's do it. And by the end of the day, we had done it. And it may have been good, it may have been bad, but we did it. The New York Times is like, okay, let's talk about it for 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, they do the thing, and it will work because they talked about it to death, but maybe at that point, the magic is lost. And I started getting this itch. I just got to build this startup. It was so much fun. I want to do it again. I'm only going to be this age one more. Like at some point, you get too old for this type of stuff, and I wanted to take one more shot. And I was introduced to Alexis Ohanian and Brent Montgomery. Brent is the executive producer of the King of Collectibles show with Golden Auctions. He created Pawn Stars, like in the Hollywood entertainment space. The guy's a legend. Obviously, read it from Alexis, so it was his initial claim to fame. But he's built this amazing venture capital business, and owns Angel City and LAGC and Chelsea Women's Soccer and all these things. I got introduced to them,
Yep.
and they had been talking at the time about trying to figure out something in the hobby to do. And their initial idea was a little bit more about, these were investable assets. Can we tell more stories about it? There's no CNBC at the time, no CNBC sort of business for the hobby, and can we maybe build something like that? And the more we started talking about it, the more it felt like there's that opportunity to tell those stories. But at the end of the day, the things that are really interesting and the things that will never disappear are the people, the
Yep.
community with collecting. Because a card could sell for a lot of money today, and then the economy crashes, and tomorrow maybe it doesn't, or you buy Daniel Jones and then he gets hurt, and so like there's all those ups and downs, right? But
Yep.
the community is what's been in this hobby forever and will stay. And so the idea morphed into, let's try to figure out, instead of being a journalism brand that's telling stories just about kind of the investable assets and collectibles, why don't we create a platform for collectors to live, to help tell their own stories, and let's see if we can build something from the ground up that really feels like it's owned by the community itself versus just as another service to tell stories.
Very cool. All right. So I want to walk through this with you, Evan. So you guys have a conversation. You're like, hey, let's do this. You start that 2023.
I
Yeah.
joined them in end of 2023. We launched the website in like February of 24.
Okay. So we're not far from 2 years into this. So
Yeah.
obviously building this from scratch, building this company uh, in a time now, especially where like social media is such a big part of cards, right? Like when I
Yes.
started an Instagram in 2013 for cards, it was nobody ever talked about cards on Instagram. It was
Sure. Yeah.
always it was all forums, blowout card
Hmm.
forums, Beckett, sports card forums, stuff like that. You know, Instagram is not a thing. Now it's a huge piece of the hobby. Trying to, break into that space in the hobby where, again, like community is a big piece of this and people are it's one thing about, people in general, but the hobby, people are really stuck in their ways. What have you seen in 2 years almost of building this, or maybe some of those early days, like the challenges, some things that maybe surprised you? When you're
Yeah.
2 years in, what's it looking like?
I think we all approach things from the vantage point of like our own experience and the
Yep.
things that we know and we love.
Sure.
Um, and that I'm guilty of that too, right? It's not just the collectors that we're trying to market to. And so I came into this with this idea that nothing was like what we were building. We were placing a bet that as like Twitter, this is sort of like when Elon was taking over Twitter, is becoming X. Things are being more driven by an algorithm. Advertising is more prevalent than it had ever been before in social media. There's a lot of things that trigger people that go on in the world every day that you can't escape if you're on Instagram or Twitter or Reddit. And our bet was that people are going to wake up one day and say, you know what? Like, I don't feel like seeing what's going on elsewhere in the world and knowing, that this is like post-COVID, like people getting sick or war or whatever. Like, I just want to hang out with my card friends in a place that is not triggering and not like stressful for me. We also felt like a lot of the existing places where you could do that were pretty toxic. For like this hobby of ours that should only bring joy, should be fun, should be added into our lives. We felt like there were a lot of people who seemed to be always angry, and whatever you were buying was the wrong thing. Whatever your opinion was stupid. However much money you spent was too much. And we just wanted to create a place that we felt like, when I say positive, it doesn't mean that we're saying you can't have a different opinion, but like let's build a
Sure.
respectful community, and those didn't really exist in the hobby, and so that was the bet that we placed. And in the earliest days, it was trying to figure out, okay, here's how I am as a collector, and the other guys I work with, and the guys that I'm around, and we talk to a lot of people. Our mutual buddy Tyler Schmidt put me in touch with a bunch of collectors that had come from, honestly, listening to Card Talk. It was like, let's get as many people from the Card Talk world on a call. I had a Zoom with all of them. What do you want? What do you not want? How should we build it? And we tried to create something that was going to work. And you quickly realize that everybody collects differently. And one platform is not going to check every box for every single person. So you have to try to figure out where are the bets that you're going to place. Where do you think people are going to want to spend your time? And look, in 2+ years of doing this, I think I've made more mistakes than I've made right decisions. I think more things that I thought were going to be slam dunks ended up not really working out. Some of the things that I thought weren't really that interesting, people ended up loving. And we're still competing every day with Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, all of those places. Because everybody's got a certain amount of time in their day. They've got
Yep.
enough apps on their phone, and you have to show them, you have to prove to them that you wake up and you're gonna click on an app, like why should you click on the big green M for Mantle versus the big black X for Twitter? Like why should you come to my world? We're still having to prove that every day. Every single user who's on the platform, like every single day, we're having to earn them back because it's not a given, and it's been a real challenge. I think harder than I naively expected it would be to build something that people were going to feel like every single day was worth their time, worth their attention. I feel like it's going to be that to the end of the time. I don't think that there's going to be a day that I wake up and it's like, oh, we got millions and millions of people and it's easy. I don't even have to do anything for them. They're going to be here no matter what because
Yep.
there's so much competition.
For sure. For sure. And man, shout out to Card Talk. That's incredible. I didn't realize that the Card Talk crew was so instrumental in maybe some of the
Oh yeah,
early
day
Mantle
one.
days. That's incredible. Love miss those miss those people. Still talk to them quite a bit. That's it's just cool to understand that was such a part of the story. But you mentioned ideas, and you failed more than you may have won. But at some point, as you're building this, you come across this idea. Talk me through how we get to where we are today. With by the time this releases, we're 24 hours or less away from the
Yeah.
announcement of the Hobby Awards. How did that come to
Yeah.
fruition?
So what we've been trying to build with this is a place that takes no sides, right? Like Mantle has no opinion on any of this stuff. We want to just be the home for these conversations. I don't care if you grade with PSA or if you grade with Beckett. It doesn't matter to me if you buy your stuff from David Adams or if you go to your LCS. I don't care any of those things. Like for me, we wanted to create a place that felt like it was neutral for the hobby. That our goal is to create a place that everybody in the hobby feels welcome, and it doesn't matter how you collect. You could be a PC collector. That we've got guys on the platform that seem to only collect Roberto Clemente. We've got other people who seem to only join breaks, and other people who are really into repacks, and some people who love to take things across the board. And so for us, it was like let's build something that feels like everybody can find their people, everybody can find something interesting. That was really the goal, and because of that, it felt like we were in this unique space because everybody else, not everybody else, but most other businesses in the hobby have like they've got something that they own and they've got somebody they're competing with, and it makes it really hard for them to do something like create an awards. Like PSA can do the set registry because you're using PSA to be part of the set registry. But if
Yep.
PSA was going to do an overall awards thing, and they were going to be giving out awards to Panini and to Fanatics and to all these other, like that would probably, you'd say, oh, why is PSA doing this? They've got some bias there. If Arena Club was doing it, or if Ludex was doing it, or anybody else, it would just so it felt like we were in this position where like we work with everybody, we love everybody, we're just trying to create the home for it all. And so maybe we could do something to kind of shine a light on the best work. And I've always felt like in my life and in my career, not enough of the wins are celebrated. We spend too much time talking about the bad stuff, too much time, talking about the things that even in this hobby, you hear it a lot. It's like, well, Snipe did this, and then TSA regraded that, and like people are focusing so often on the bad, and we don't take a second to say all that stuff is true. We should talk about it. But also, did you see how cool this was? Like, can we appreciate how great of a product this was, or the stories these people told, or whatever? Like, there's very little ability to take a deep breath and like celebrate the wins. And it felt like the hobby needed it. And as part of our goal to create a respectful, happy, positive place on the internet for collecting, what's the best way we can do that? Well, we can shine a light on the stuff that we should all be proud of, and we can pat each other on the back and celebrate it. And so that was sort of the initial idea for the Hobby Awards. And I feel very lucky that we've been able to get adoption really quickly. That people didn't look at it and say, "What does Mantle know about this? Why are these the guys doing it?" Or ignore them. That this isn't the right thing. There hasn't been a competitor that has jumped up to do it. We've been able to build the way that we decided to structure it. We wanted the community to have a voice. So
Yep.
70% of the vote comes from the collectors, right? You don't have to spend any money, you don't have to do anything, you get to go vote. Vote, so 70% from the community. The other 30%, we built a judging panel because we wanted to make sure also that we had people who were in the industry who had a different perspective on things. And we also wanted that, frankly, that cosign of people in the industry. If they were judges, they would then support us and help this thing become good. So Darren Ravel and Jeff Wilson, Michael Osaki, who's one of the best, I think, appraisers in the game, and Josh Luber, who created StockX and Fanatics Collectible, and the Ghost Rig behind you, Alexis Ohanian and DJ Ski, and all these people who we kind of know and trust, are involved in this in some way. They make up that last 30% of the vote. And so, I think we've been able to create something hopefully that'll be around for a long time. 15 categories, 98 nominees this year. We had more than 700 suggested nominees from the community.
Holy cow.
Now I'm excited for tomorrow to finally get the word out on who's, taking home. We have these custom ghost rights that we built. I'm so excited about. We were able to work with Josh to create these things. Like, we have as limited edition of a trophy as you could get. If you're going to do a hobby awards about the collectibles industry, you got to have a collectible trophy. And so it's going to be a ghost right. And tomorrow, we're going to see 15 people take one home.
Man, that's so cool. I love the thought behind it. It's such a cool thing, and I love the idea of on like the positivity piece behind it. Like, the unbiased thing I think is a big piece in that, because you mentioned the PSA thing. Like, if PSA did it, if Arena Club did it, like if any of those people did it, like those people have relationships. Those people are like invested, like from a financial piece in the hobby, and then you weren't, you wonder about like the again, I'm sure those questions will come up for you, but they definitely come up if
Yeah.
like a Panini does it, if a Tops does it, if
Yeah.
any of those big companies in the space do it now. Like, oh hey, why are they giving this person? Like you just deal with some of those questions. So
Right.
when you guys are doing it, like I'm sure you've heard that, like, oh, how about why did this person not get nominated? Why did this? It sounds like a lot of that was like maybe all of it was community driven. This was,
Yeah.
in terms of the nominations, all community, and in terms of voting, mostly
Yeah.
community, but some people that are ingrained in the hobby on a daily basis help
Yeah.
make those decisions final. Am I getting that right?
Totally. And I love that you're asking it because it's a question that we get a lot, and I want to do my best to like dispel any rumors with it or misconceptions. So we put out a call to our community through social, but also in the Mantle app, and said to everybody, we're going to be doing these awards, and we need nominations. And so here are the categories, and tell us who you think should be nominated. And so, as I said, 700 or so different people, products, brands were nominated, businesses were nominated through that process. And then from there, we basically took the ones that got the most shout outs and then sat down as a small team to say, okay, well, we have room for 5 nominees in this. These are the 5 that got nominated the most. And does that make sense? Did we miss anybody or whatever? And we were able to kind of shape it that way. But the
Yep.
community picked. If somebody didn't get nominated, we did put them in. If somebody got nominated a ton of times, and I think about like the best card shops, there are some on there that I've never been to. I don't know anything about them. And if I was going to take them off, even though their community came through and said, this is the best card shop, this is where I spend my time and money, that would have, I think, ruined the authenticity of this and ruined the trust. And so, in a lot of cases, the nominees that made it through to be finalists are not necessarily things that I either knew about or would have voted for myself had I had the ability to. And I thought that was really important. And then it comes time for the vote, and that is again 70% through the community. So we're able to go. Anybody can just go to the website and vote, and then 30% through that voting panel. I'm not a judge. Nobody on the Mantel team, nobody with the Mantel email address is a judge, and so I voted, but my vote is worth as much as anybody else on Earth's vote is worth. I don't get a bigger say because I'm part of it. And at the end of the day, we took a look at who won, and I couldn't move it. There were some of these winners. I'm like, oh man, the person I voted for, the business I voted for, didn't win. But it's not like I can put my thumb on the scale. They didn't win, and other people that maybe I didn't feel like were as deserving, or I didn't buy their thing, or I don't know as much about them, ended up at the top of the list, and that's what we're going with. And so it was really important to us to do this in a way that felt as fair as possible, as little bias as possible. I think I've gotten some feedback that we didn't have enough nominees for this category, should have had more. Missing this category, should have had this. This guy is in this category, but he really should be in that category. And so I think we're going to learn a lot between now and next year on how to do it better. But for a first
Yeah.
year, it feels like we got some really big names out there. We got a lot of votes, thousands and thousands of individual people voted. And the show that we're putting on tomorrow night, we've been in production on it. I feel like it's going to do it justice. It's going to feel like something special for the hobby that the hobby deserves.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you. You kind of hinted at it there a little bit, but what maybe your biggest surprise or anything that kind of stood out to you in this process of, you know, ideation to 24 hours away from award? Anything kind of stand out to you, surprise you, biggest takeaway,
Yeah.
something from this process?
Yeah. We didn't have, I don't think, enough nominees for the best product categories. I think we ended up with five for non-sports and five for sports. Probably could have doubled or even tripled that. I was talking to like the sports card nonsense guys were like, you should have a nominee from every sport. So there should be a hockey product and a baseball product and a basketball product. We didn't do that. We took what was nominated us, and so the ones that kind of came to the top came to the top. So I think that that's something for next year. I think non-sports and TCG, in my mind, I'm not a huge non-sports TCG collector, and so there were some people who said, hey, like these things are not, they shouldn't be compared to each other. Like you can't have Magic the Gathering against Disney Topps Chrome, even though they're both non-sports. They're sort of, one's TCG and one is like more of like entertainment non-sports. So maybe that should be another category next year. So there was a lot of stuff like that I think was really fascinating for us to see and to understand like what people were interested in. I think some of the really hard ones, card shops, like there are a few card shops that a lot of people know, and even if they're, Burbank Sports Cards, Cards HQ, that people like understand and know your card shop. You've got such a giant audience. There are a lot of people who have never been to Ohio, but know that your card shop exists. But then there are a ton of card shops that exist just for that local community. And so, how do you make
Yep.
sure that everybody's kind of on an even playing field? So the best shops in the country are getting the exposure, whether or not they have the giant marketing budget and the 10,000 square foot shop. Like we want to make sure that we're shouting out the best. The live streaming breaking category, the content creator category, like there are so many people who could reasonably win and be up for those. And I got a lot of questions like during it, like how are you doing this and this person's not nominated? Like this is total BS if they're not nominated. Sometimes they weren't nominated by the community, and so like we can't do anything about it. There were a few instances where we reached out to the person who was nominated, and they said that they weren't interested. They would rather keep their name out of it. I hope next year that's not the case. Pokemon is a good example of that. Everybody's like, how do you not have like Prismatic Evolution as a TCG non-sports? Like this has no validity if Pokemon is not one of the nominees. They said no. They don't really know who Mantle is. I hope that will change. And for whatever reason, we didn't get an answer. We didn't press on it, but they said that they'd rather be excluded from it, so they're not a nominee. If in 2026 Pokemon is nominated by our community and they decide to we reach out to them about it, I hope that they'll say yes. But those are the types of things that as you're going through this, it often surprises you, and you just that there are millions of people who care about this space, and everybody's got a different perspective on who's deserving, who they who they spend money with or time with, who they follow. Everybody's. Yeah, I wish we could actually calculate like how many different voting like whatever like ballots there are. Because I imagine out of the thousands of people who came in, I would be surprised if there are that many that are identical.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about some of those. Like now that you say it though, like it makes a lot more sense around like some of those like I just think of it from the content creator perspective, like the card shop perspective, like
Yeah,
again, like if you're looking at it from like you follow sports cards and you see a content creator for Pokemon, like that person, like you may
right.
not have any idea who that is. And the same thing for
Totally.
a shop. It's like, the Burbanks, the Cards HQs, the
Yeah,
Card Vault by Tom Brady. Those are, those are the some of the biggest names in the
right.
space. But, there's a card shop in Missouri. There's a card shop in Minnesota that like is huge for that community. It's
Totally.
I guess I never really thought about that. So sounds like there might be some like expansion of this in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think even this year for like the card shops, Grand Slam Collectibles was nominated and Cards HQ was nominated. I think those are two pretty different, or Card Vault by Tom Brady, as you said, pretty different card shops. One's very local, one has this content machine and breaks and does all those things. And so, should they be in the same category? Yeah, because they're all card shops, but that doesn't mean it's always apples to apples. We also, when it came to live streamers and content creators, we wanted to make sure we weren't biting off too much and then not nailing our execution. And so, like for Pokemon influencers, there are a lot of them out there. But we didn't want to go through something where people who didn't know who Mantle was and said no and didn't want to participate. The reality is, I would say 85 to 90% of the content that's put up on Mantle every day is sports cards. I hope that in a year that's not the case. I hope there's way more TCG. I hope that there are way more
Yep.
vinyl toys and tickets and signed baseballs and other things. Like when we built this, we didn't want to build something just for sports cards because as you can see like behind me and I can see behind you, most people who collect sports cards like a lot of things. And
Yep.
I always felt really restrained if I went to blowout forums as an example. Everything there is about cards, and if I wanted to talk to somebody about a watch or if I wanted to talk to somebody about a vinyl toy, I'd have to go to a different community for that. I'd have to leave that experience and go somewhere else. Could we build something that was for not the collectible but the collector, for the person who likes a lot of things? And
Yep.
that's what we have set out to do for Mantle. Reality is, again, it's mostly sports cards now, but that shouldn't be the way. If we're successful, it should continue to grow and evolve. Which means that next year we could have a comic book category, we could have a vinyl toy category. We could have stamps and coins and all these other things. Will we? I don't know. I hope that one day we will. That this will be like looked at as if I can be so bold, but like the Oscars for the collectible industry. That everybody who's doing anything in collectibles is thinking about this as being for them. But for right now, we wanted to make sure that what we built was something that we could execute. What we built was something that our community, the people that we talk to every single day on Mantle, our social channels, would find would feel like it was for them and that they were part of it. And so we really thought really carefully about how many categories we wanted to have, how many nominees we wanted to have, and it's just learn. If next year looks exactly the same, I'd be surprised.
Interesting. So I want to get into that in a second because I have some questions about like more the future, but more of a one-off with obviously out giving anything away, anything at all. Was there a category that was super close you can share,
Yeah,
or was there a category that like surprised you in the voting one way or the other? Again, don't have to give any insight, just
yeah.
more curious.
Yeah, there are a couple that surprised me, but I also was able to look every single day at the votes, and so it's hard to say it really surprised me because I just saw the trends.
Yep.
But I think there are two or three categories that came in that were incredibly close at the end. We had the judges vote before everything started, but we didn't put the
Interesting.
judges vote in until the end because we didn't want any kind of bias. We kept everything totally separate. So I didn't know what the judges had picked for anything until it was all said and done. So we kind of just kept their votes in a vault. And as soon as the community vote was over, we ran the numbers and we added them in, and there were two or three instances that because of the weighting, the judges were 30%, the community were 70%, that things were so close that the judges vote moved things around. Either it took number two and brought it to number one, or it could have been lower down where number five became number four, but the judges actually had an impact in that way. And you don't know when you go through this, and it was kind of interesting for me to see, like, if the judges move things, where do the judges think something is the best versus the community? And was there anything to take from that? Now, we can't say who the judges voted for, so it's not like I can go out and say, like, Gary Vaynerchuk's one of our judges. I can't scream from the rooftops like Gary thought that this person was the most deserving, and the community thought that person was. Like, I'm not going to sell any of them out, but
Yeah,
it
sure.
was interesting from my vantage point to see that, like, oh, this creator is really popular with the community, but the judges are less familiar. And this creator is very popular with the judges, but the community is less creative, less interested, or the same, card artist or something. And so that was really interesting to me. I think the way that we created the judges panel, we have people from all across the industry, people who,
Yeah.
like Gary, who have product in it. We have people who work for grading companies. We have people who have apps in the company in it. People who are influencers in it. And so, seeing that, we tried to make it as varied as possible, so there wouldn't be inherent bias where, like, everybody is from this section of the industry, and so
Yeah,
you're all going to
sure.
vote the same way. And that wasn't the case at all. The judges certainly weren't a herd mentality. The judges never talked to each other anyways either. It wasn't like we brought them all in a room and had them vote together. They all did it by themselves and anonymously. But it was cool to see some of those places that you're like, oh my god, like that this thing was leading for 2 weeks, and then but number two was within a percentage point, and the judges popped in and it flipped something.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, it's cool to learn about like the voting process. Again, I honestly kind of figured from an outsider's perspective, it might be like some kind of like group, Zoom call or some kind of like
Yeah,
meeting about it. But the idea that the judges were, anonymous individually kind of,
yeah.
I think adds a unique element to
So
it.
we had talked about, could we bring everybody together? I wish that I could say that there was some beautiful strategy about why we decided to go one way or the other. The truth is, with like 18 really important, busy people, we were never going to
Yep.
get them all in a room together. And
100%.
so, like, if I can't make sure that Steve Aoki and Gary Vaynerchuk and Alex Giamo and Matt Spost are in the room at the same time, which I can't do. Morgan John Fox, all these people, like, you're just like, it was really cool for me to get to interact with all of them, people who I really respect and have learned a lot from in the space. But we couldn't get them to talk to each other about it, so everybody kind of approached it from their own standpoint. I've now had the luxury of being able to talk to some of them and ask, like, oh, how'd you approach it? Why'd you do this? We have a segment in the show that we've got five judges who are just going to be on to talk a little bit of how they approached their judging for it. And it was fascinating to hear that all of them came from a totally different perspective. Some of them, did research to learn about things they didn't know, and others approached it from the standpoint of, like, if I don't know that, I'm like anybody else. I'm not going to do research. I'm a collector. I'm going to pick the people that I have already been exposed to, and you kind of see a little bit of both. And we didn't want to be too prescriptive and say, if you're a judge, you gotta, watch 10 hours of video, and you gotta, it wasn't like that. It was, we wanted to create something for the community, and everybody approaches it in their own way, and the judges do too.
I love that. Yeah, this is cool. I'm excited to you know, watch, tomorrow when this happens. But Evan, you hinted at it earlier. You look in the long term. You say you hope this is something that turns into kind of like the Oscars for like the collectible space. Do you envision this? And tomorrow is more of like a digital type presentation.
Yeah.
Do you envision this being an in-person type event in the future? Like maybe years, maybe next year, maybe years down the road. Is we going to get this in person, or do you anticipate this being like an online thing for the foreseeable future?
I'd love it to be in person. I think it'd be a lot of fun and an opportunity to get people together. This year, we didn't want to, we didn't want to take too much on that we weren't going to be able to successfully do. Nobody on my team, like, we're not events people. We've never done anything like this. And you think about the size and scope, it's been really hard to do a digital version. We create digital content every day. How much harder is it going to be to, have fire marshals and step and repeats and red carpets? Like, it just makes me nauseous thinking about it. But I think it'd be really cool for the hobby to create that. We also struggled with trying to find, like, when do you do it? Because we're doing this as a retrospective on the year. If we did this at the National or at Fanatics Fest, which are two places that you get the vast majority of the hobby, then you kind of you lose 6 months worth of the year as part of it. So now you're saying, like, who had the best last 12 months, which is like July to July. It's a little bit more complicated. But also, I go to those events every year, and it's hard to get somebody to like meet me for coffee, let alone get people. I mean,
Yeah,
think about the
for
national
sure.
schedule. When are we going to get
Oh,
people to show up to
dude.
an event and do it that they're going to pay attention to? Because everybody's so busy and so distracted. So it felt like if we can't do it at those events, now we've got to create a totally different time in the window. We have to get people who are spread out all across not just the country, but North America and the world. Now we're going to say you've got to be in LA or Chicago or New York in December. You got to fly
Yeah.
with your own money. You got to do all these things. Like, I'd like to think that there's a way for us to do it like that in the future, but we kind of needed to prove ourselves first and get something out there, get people to know that this was worth their time and everything. And I don't know if it'll be next year or 5 years down the line. I hope one day we've got a host up on stage and people are collecting their ghost right, in person and having after parties and doing all those things. But I'd love if you have like an idea of when and where to do it. I'd love to hear it, but I just couldn't figure out any time on the calendar where we weren't going to be anything other than a nuisance to everybody involved.
Man, you have clearly thought about this so much because the first thing that popped into my head was Fanatics Fest. You're in New
Yeah,
York, you're in the perfect city for it. Fanatics Fest is very events driven, like that is the
yeah,
collectible, sports type space where, the Nationals a lot more card focused. So my
yeah,
first thought is Fanatics Fest. Like that makes a ton of sense. But then you think about it, and again, knowing the people on the judge, on the panel, like who votes, I know how hard my time is at the National or Fanatics Fest. Like you said, the
yeah,
coffee, like it's every minute. Like you're at the event, then you have meetings or dinners. Like there's always something going on. It's
yeah.
it's not just we go to the show and you hang in a hotel room. Like those people are meeting. They have dinners. They have client meetings. They have meetings with these companies. Like it's so busy. And then it's also the schedule thing. It's the 12. It's July to
Yeah.
July. It's not the end of the year. And then if you ask somebody to fly 3 weeks before the holiday season,
It's
busy
hard.
travel time post Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
you're paying for it, weather, like, yeah,
And I think the other
yeah,
thing that I always come back to is like Mantle is for the community. We have investors like Gary Vee and Steve Aoki who are celebrities and big names. Obviously, our judging panel, a lot of big names. But the business wasn't built for Gary and for Steve. It was built for the people who collect V-Friends cards. It was built for the people who are part of this community. And if you schedule something and
mm-hmm.
say you need to spend your money to fly to this place to buy a ticket to be in this room to see all these people get celebrated, we're celebrating the businesses, we're not necessarily celebrating John and Jane Collector. That feels really off to me. I don't love the optics of that. I don't love asking our community to go out and do that. And I also don't love the idea of having an event that everybody in every seat is an industry professional or a celebrity, because that also doesn't feel like it's for our community. I mean, I like comparing it to the Oscars. Like you watch the Oscars and you don't see moviegoers sitting there. You see celebrities. You see producers. You see, like you watch the Emmys, even the ESPYS. Like it's athletes. But we are like this is the hobby, right? Like you talk about it, like people put their time, their energy, their love into this every single day.
Yeah.
We are only going to survive as a business. We're only going to thrive as a community if the people who collect want Mantle to be around. I want the hobby awards to be around. And if we made this something that was only attainable for the wealthy, the connected, the industry people, it wouldn't feel like we were doing something that was like core to our mission. It would feel like we were doing something for the industry versus for the community.
That makes me feel really optimistic about these, awards and, kind of the future here. Cause you got, I didn't like, you can clearly tell this is very, very, very thought out. Like you have put a lot of time and energy and just thoughtfulness around this project. Like this was not just some kind of like, you know, idea on a whim. This is very,
Yeah.
very, thought out. So I feel really, really good about like, what you guys are doing. It's just cool to watch from afar. Obviously, to be nominated for one of the categories was,
Yeah.
very humbling and very cool. But it's clear this is going to be something that will be a part of the future. But I would
Yeah.
ask you, right? As you sit here today, you've learned a lot in this process. We're 24 hours away from this. What do you envision the future of this, award looking like in this space?
You know, I think about this stuff all the time. We have a small team, so Mantle is 4 people. That's our entire team. The Hobby Awards is the 4 of us. Buster Share is our host, who's like part of us, like an extension of our team, and we love. And we're partnered with Yahoo, and Yahoo has 2 guys over there that have been working with us and helping us produce the show from like cameras and lighting, because we don't know anything about that, and that's it, right? And so we're all working around the clock to make this a reality, and I'm hopeful that when people watch it, they see the blood, sweat, and tears, but also the love that went into every aspect of this, and you'll see it. It's like nobody's in a tuxedo. It's not perfect. It's like it's our Buster's in a t-shirt on as hosting this show. We are collectors. It feels very much like walking into a card shop or a card show, and that was intentional on our part. I hope, to your question, that this only continues to grow. One of our, you'll see it in the show tomorrow, I think. Morgan John Fox, who directed the documentary The Hobby, was asked by Buster. He was a judge, and Morgan was asked, like, what could we do? Where do we hope this will go? And he had said that he would love if, like, Allen and Ginter cards, like Tops was giving, if you won a Hobby Award, you got a Ginter card, and like we had the Hobby Awards creator influencer of the year gets a Ginter card, or if a product, if it's Topps Update or Panini, whatever the card is, Disney Chrome, like, says on the box that this was the winner of the Mantle Hobby Awards, like, that this becomes something that the industry feels like is important. It's core to them, that they want to support. We didn't take advertising for it. We're not out there selling it. It's you don't have to pay to watch. You don't have to pay to be involved. Like, there's no pay to play or anything on this.
Yep.
But I hope it's something that over time the industry really feels like is something that they want to get behind and they want to make bigger. I'd love to get a call at the end of this from Michael Rubin or Nat Turner or any of these people saying, you know what, like, what you guys built is not only cool, but it's something that needs to exist. How can PSA or Topps or Fanatics or Panini or Cards HQ or any of these brands, how can we help make this bigger? Because if it's bigger, it's better for all of us. That's really my hope, and I hope that the community looks at it and says, like, all right, somebody's like paying attention to us, building something for us, and checks out Mantle, because we've got another year before the next awards, but 24 hours a day, Mantle is alive with people talking about cards and interacting with each other and trading and having a good time. So I just hope that this also lets people know that there is a place that was built specifically for this community that exists. It's a free app. It's a free website. And I hope that this will introduce more people to our community. And so that when next year this comes around, we're going to go out and we're going to say, give us your nominees, and we're going to get more than 700. We're going to get way more people who are going to get
Oh
involved.
yeah.
And when we ask for votes, we're going to get way more than thousands. We're going to get tens of thousands, because the community will continue to grow. And I think about, and I love your content, because you're always interacting with every time that there's like a kid coming up to you and talking to you. It's like, how do we make sure that this thing is sustainable and grows? It can't just be about pulling the Yamamoto debut patch, or like hitting some massive thing in a repack or whatever. Like, there's only a certain subset of this community that is able to play at that high end. The average person who collects is going to an LCS. They're going to maybe one card show a year if it's local. They're trading with their friends. They're having a good time. And if we want to get more people into it, we have to create more spaces for people to be
Yep.
able to ask dumb questions, for people to learn, for people to communicate, meet other people who like the same things. I love finding people on Mantle who collect in ways that I find interesting. They're different than the way that I do. I also
For
love
sure.
finding people on Mantle who I like, oh, we share this interest. And there aren't a lot of us who like this exact one thing. So let's talk about it. And that's what we're trying to build. And long-winded way to say that, I hope that your audience is going to watch this podcast, your audience is going to watch the show, and other people are going to help kind of say, like, hey, this is something that, if Mantle exists and if Mantle is successful and is growing, it means good things for everybody else in the hobby, for the people who are selling cards, to the people
Yep.
who are creating content, to the graders, and to everybody else. Like, that, this means that we have something that's a town square that's helping to grow this industry. And I hope the Hobby Award shows people kind of what we're all about.
Very cool. Very, very cool. That's a great answer. Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is just proving that this is Again, I think that's the thing I'm going to take away from this is just the thoughtfulness, like what went into this, just the people involved in it, the ideas, the again, it's I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm excited to see how this grows. But if somebody wants to watch tomorrow, right? Obviously, this is a short
Yeah.
window because this will drop and the awards are tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Where will people be able to watch this online?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is it'll continue to live beyond just tomorrow if you can't catch it live, but I hope that you will because we're doing some things live tomorrow that'll be a lot of fun. Cards HQ put up a Breaker's Delight box that we're going to be breaking in the hobby in the awards for 30 random viewers, and so people were able to submit their names, and we're going to announce who is part of the break, and they're going to break it. They get whatever comes out of the box. We're
That's
giving
awesome.
away two of the Ghost Strike trophies. So we made ones for the winners, and then we made a small batch for the judges, and we created two extra ones to give away, and so that'll be part of it also. So watching live does have some benefits, but it'll remain, and you'll see it clipped up on all the Mantle social accounts and things like that. If you do want to watch it live, the Mantle YouTube page and Yahoo Sports YouTube page probably the best places to go watch it, but you'll see it, clipped everywhere in our world. And if you don't follow us, it's on Mantel, ONMANTEL. We get that question a lot. Why is it
Mm-hmm.
spelled MANTEL? We named it for two reasons. One, the mantle that you put things up at your house that mean a lot to you that you have like above the fireplace. But also it's like a wink wink to Mickey. Without spelling it the same way as his name because
Yep.
I love not being sued.
Man, that's one thing I've learned about you on this podcast, man, is you put a lot of thinking into some of these things. That's,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love it. Man, this has been a lot of fun. Excited to watch tomorrow. Excited to see what you guys build in the future. I certainly appreciate you sharing so much insight into this process and this journey from not only building Mantle but also the awards and what you guys are trying to do there. But last question before I go, right? You've been in the collectibles, the hobby space for a while, so this is more of like a personal question for
Yeah.
you. But as you look back, just knowing what you know now, right? If you were gonna give yourself some advice, like you take everything you've learned in this space, but you're starting fresh today, right? What would be the first piece of advice you would give yourself?
Buy singles instead of ripping wax would be very high up on the list. For me, I feel like I learn that mistake every 3 months and have to remind myself. I'm trying to build a rainbow. I'm a Crystal Palace fan in the Premier League, and Adam Wharton's one of my favorite players. I'm trying to build his rainbow from 24, 25 select. And they're really hard cards to find because he's not a big name and he's not on a big team. And so I can't find any of them. And I've been buying singles, and every once in a while I just get itchy and I go out and I buy a hobby box of it, just hoping that I'm gonna happen to pull like the parallel I'm looking for of the player I'm looking for. And I'd love if I could go back in time to last week. Actually, I tell myself that that's a bad idea. So I think that's at the top of the list. But I think also just like to me the stories are what make this industry so cool. I say it all the time. You'll hear me say it in the episode tomorrow. Like most of this stuff, like inherently has no value, right? Like a Honus Wagner it's a piece of cardboard with a guy's picture on it. Why is that one of the most expensive cards of all time? It's the story behind it of whether or not it was NIL or anti cigarettes. But his card doesn't exist in a lot of places, and we as a community have said this is the card. We care about this card. The story and the community came together to make that thing what it is today. If you look at the 52 tops, again, like yeah, a bunch of them ended up in the Hudson River, but we have said that the 52 tops is the bigger card, the better card than the 51 Bowman or other players who might have been bigger and better than Mickey Mantle. But the community came together and said this is what we care about and this is
Yep.
why. And I think at the end of the day, it's the stories, and it's why I love the work that you do and a lot of the creators who are out there who are not just saying like, okay, here's a color blast, it's worth X dollars, give me Y dollars, and we'll make a deal. But like talking about why these things matter, talking about why we love them, talking about why we got into this. Um, and I think I have to remind myself of that every day because at the end, at the end of it, like for this industry to continue to thrive and continue to grow, it can't just be about the value of things. One
Yep.
day things will dip in price. Your player's going to get hurt. The economy is going to be suffering, or you'll get distracted because something else will be out there. but the stories behind these things, the people that you're gonna meet through it, the feelings that you get from finding the thing that you've been looking for, or having the thing that brings you so much joy, like that's what sustains. And not that I didn't always know that, but it's something that I always have to remind myself of, because sometimes the flashy thing, like becoming a magpie and seeing a little bit of silver in the tree, you're like, oh, I got to go get that. But where I'm happiest, and where I think a lot of people are happiest, is when they say, I don't need that just because it's shiny. Like I want to find the thing that speaks to me, that brings me joy. I've got a PC of, like, I was a journalism major. One of my PCs is autographed cards of sports broadcasters. You can't tell me that, like, a Dick Vitale card, or a,
Oh,
whatever,
definitely
like
got
a,
that.
like, but I got all, like, I've got,
Classics.
Vin Scully, all these guys, and, like, they're not really worth much. They never will be, but they bring me joy. And I
Yep.
find that when I go out and get a John Saunders signed card, I get more
That's
joy out
awesome.
of it than when I end up, pulling a card from a pack that is actually worth more money, but does nothing for me. And I think the way I encourage anybody collecting, like, find the things that bring you joy, regardless of whether or not they're the things that bring other people joy. And you'll stick
For
with this a
sure.
lot longer if you figure out your PC, your niche.
Man, that is fantastic advice. That is at the heart of a lot of the stuff I post on Instagram. Content wise, like I've collected Disney cards for
Yeah.
since 2023. Really is when I got into it with when my son was born.
Mhm.
My wife used to work there, and as I've collected, you hear a lot about like why would somebody ever buy a fictional character card, and why would ever
Right.
somebody ever do this, and taking my son to Disney World and seeing that, and tying these character cards to those moments,
Yeah.
and understanding that like it doesn't matter if you like it or you think it's the dumbest thing
Right.
in the world. At the end of the day, these cards have value because we say they have value. That's why they're
Right.
valuable, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, this is just a there's just a guy's face or a girl's face or a fictional character's face on a piece
Right.
of cardboard that is not extremely big. And at the end of the day, if they were all worth zero, I would still collect these cards, but I would collect the ones that mean the most. And I think that's
Yeah.
very, very important advice. Like you said, one day we'll get to sit down over coffee or something and talk about those. I'd love to show you the Harry Carey auto and the PC, and
Oh yeah. I'd love
talk about those cool cards. And again, like you said, the stories. But I think that's what at the end of the day makes it the most fun. So that's great advice, and I appreciate you sharing.
it's always fun to talk about this, and to talk about it with somebody who's like-minded. I know, I've followed you for a long time, so I see, your Woody card collection or whatever it is. I don't collect Disney, but I love to see people do things differently than me. I mean, it's where I find the most joy in this. Like, I want to be exposed to things every day. I feel like I am like a lot of collectors, curious by nature.
Yep.
And where this becomes more fun is when you learn something new, you get exposed to something you've never seen before. And I have things that, I collect, that, like I say, I collect, and then I get two or three of them and I move on to something else, because from an ADD world, it's just like always like, oh,
Yeah. Oh
there's
yeah.
something else. Like, I've got some stock certificates. I've got one behind me from Marquise Mills Converse, who, like, created Converse, and he signed the stock certificate, and it's from 1925 or something. It's right before the All Star, the Chuck Taylor came out. And, like, I didn't continue to buy stock certificates. Like, it doesn't
Yep.
speak to me in that way, but
hundred
like,
percent.
that's a story that I like. Oh, that makes so much sense. That's really cool. I want to go get it. I don't care how much. I don't think I'll ever sell it, because I wouldn't even know how to go about selling something like that.
Yep.
But, like, that's not what matters to me. And I think, I find that with a lot of collectors, those stories are what makes it so much fun, and it's how you can sit across from somebody at coffee and talk to them for an hour and not get bored, because you're not just saying, like, hey, did you, like, let's talk about the Wemby cards that, like, everybody else has. Like, no, like, tell me about the stuff that you have, that I have never seen before, or that I've never thought about as a category. Let's talk about that, because that's always, for me, where I get the most excited.
For sure, for sure. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Excited to see how you guys continue to build Mantle, and how these awards continue to play out and build over time. But best of luck tomorrow. And again,
Thank you.
thanks for coming on, Evan.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for, the exposure to your audience, and congrats on the nomination. And tomorrow will be a fun time.
Thanks, Evan. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Stock Watch. the man, the myth, the legend, Gabe Card Stacks, once again joining us here today. We're gonna talk all things college football cards. I know you guys know that, but the transfer portal is in full effect right before the CFP begins. We just crowned a Heisman Trophy, so a lot to get into on today's episode. So, Gabe, my friend, first off, as always, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, man. This is, I love the games. I love everything about college football and the actual sport and just everything about it. But I also love the off season just as much. I love the
Oh yeah,
transfer portal, all the craziness, the card market, everything that comes with it, the coaching carousel, the transfer portal. Now we're in, the biggest games of the season. Everyone's watching them. There's only 4 games to keep track of now, so they're under a magnifying glass. To me, I love the off season just as much. And from a card perspective, I do think this is where a lot of the prospecting is really done as we head into the deeper off season and then full swing. I mean, we've got you prepare now for the next 8 months of off season basically. So that's
yep,
that's where my
yeah.
mind is when it comes to the prospecting. I'm very excited for this to just talk all things off season.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that I think that's a really interesting way to look at it because it's kind of crazy that the college football playoff has not begun and the offseason has started at the same time. The way the college football schedule works with early signing day now, transfer portal window opening, this is a crazy time in college football now where like these things are intertwined now because coaches got to recruit. You've got to get guys to the finish line of signing day. I know that was something we talked about with like Ohio State leading up to the Big Ten title. Like you're trying to keep Chris Henry there. You're trying to, deal with the distractions of Brian Harlan leaving, Matt Patricia's getting pulled by Penn State. You're going through all that. And then you're preparing for a Big Ten title. Now the transfer portal window opens, and you've got to talk with kids about leaving, staying. I saw the report today on Twitter. We're obviously recording this a day earlier, but there was a report going around on Twitter that Trinidad Chambliss hadn't decided if he was going to play against Tulane. He might enter the transfer portal next year with Kiffin gone. They're not sure what's the best option for them right now. Like if he's not going to be there, like college football is in a very different spot. It's great for us from like a card perspective, like where we can get cards, we can buy. I will give you all the flowers in the world. We will talk about this in a second. But the number one player in the transfer portal rankings so far is none other than Brendan Sorsby. And the number one supporter and advocate and fan of Brendan Sorsby was this man right here, was Gabe Carstacks. If you have been following him on social for any period of time, the guy has been the biggest Brendan Sorsby stan since as long as I can remember. And Brendan Sorsby is ranked above Raiola, above Lagway in the, I think it's like 247 rankings. He's the number one player in the portal. I think he's going to go to a team that's going to have a spot to contend next year. We'll get into those predictions in a second. But Brendan Sorsby cards are in a different price category now than they were 6 months ago. They're not in the same category. And this is obviously the what NIL and what the transfer portal and what, college football has become. Anybody that tells you can't make money buying and selling college football cards is mistaken. And, we're well past those days. So, yeah, again, give you a lot of credit for that. But yeah, very interesting time now where we're preparing for the CFP. Like Ohio State's, going to find out Saturday by 4:00, Eastern time, who they play in the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve. And they're also trying to keep guys from, leaving their school next year. They're trying to see who's going into the portal. Just a 24/7 world now in college football. And it leads to a lot of opportunity for those like you and I looking to make a play.
Yeah, no doubt. I am, so thrilled about the Brennan Sorsby portal move and just the ranking. I was very shocked at first. On three, I think had him at like number 3 or 4. Decided to
Yep.
check 24/7 last night and was stunned. But I am so happy, and we'll talk about it. Should we just get right into stock up then?
Yeah,
Because
let's do
we might
that.
be
We're still gonna do stock up. There haven't been as many games played, but obviously, there are guys' prices that are moving with some of this early news.
Yes. All right. Well, we're right there. Brennan Sorsby stock up just within a day, really. I mean, his prices have kind of crept up. There were some rumor like in like November, they were like, "Hey, NFL arm," and I was like, "I don't know about that." I like Sorsby. He was my Cam Scatterbo of last year. If the product came out, within reason of the start of the season, I would have gone all in on Cam Scatterbo. That was my Brennan Sorsby for this year. And so, yeah, I remember buying refractor autos for under $4, $5. I was even buying them up to like $14 like 3 weeks ago. Now I don't think you're finding them under $30. I've been scooping up a couple. I just bought a yellow auto for $60 all in this morning. I just thought with the rest of the prices moving up, that one didn't move. So I was like, all right, I feel good if a base is close to 30. I'm gonna buy the yellow at 60. I just feel like I could relist that for maybe 100 once it comes in. Maybe we decide, where we're going. I say we because I'm in the Sorsby camp. So, I want to know, Brendan, where are we going? His price is going way up. So, yeah, you just always ask me what's my play. I'm like, I don't know. I'm here for the ride. I'm here for a good time. Just a guy that I believe in. It costs $0 to believe in something. I've put well over that into Sorsby, but man, just the guy that I love. Texas Tech,
That's the
Tennessee,
quote of the day.
all these
That's the
schools.
quote of the
I have
day.
no
This
clue.
this guy said it costs $0 to believe in something. That's spectacular. That's the quote of the day. That I need that. I need that on the wall behind me. It costs $0 to believe in something. That's an all-time quote. All-time quote.
Yep. So I'm in. His prices are up. I don't know what I'm going to do. I did jump all my price. I had a couple messages yesterday like, "Hey, would you do 25 bucks on the refractor?" Come to find out, I'm the cheapest available. I'm like, "Son, I'm about to jump that up. Thanks for letting me know. You could have had a deal. That's on you." So I jumped up all my prices. My golds are at like 250. I had a lot of watchers on them. And I don't know. I only have like one of each listed right now, and I'll just kind of bread from it. So Brennan Sorsby stock
Yeah,
up.
shout out to you for sniping the Sorsby auto I had on ComC a few weeks ago. Just absolutely sniping it. Just hey man, he's like, I'm not gonna message Ryan and say, can I get a deal on this? He's like, I'm just gonna snipe you, So shout out to you on that. Lunch is on you next time you're in town. But next guy on the list outside of the Brandon Sorsby.
Yes. So next one, I'll go Jeremiah Love. His prices, for not being like the high, like we all knew he wasn't going to win the Heisman, but still his prices continue to jump up. I sold a base auto the night of the Heisman ceremony for I think $240. So
Yeah, we
they
sold.
probably
So for perspective, I don't know the exact number, but I know it was north of, I want to say north of 4 for a base PSA 10 auto at the Fort Wayne Card Show, right the week before the Heisman. So
okay.
$400 for a base PSA 10 auto has to be one of the, like, look at all sales, look at all guys ever produced in Bowman from 21 when they first did it unlicensed to now. I would imagine if you took every single player ever created in all of the sets and you said, what do their base auto PSA 10 sells for? I can't think of 5 guys that would sell for more. Caleb comes to mind. Stroud comes to mind. Like
Sure.
Travis Hunter,
Travis.
maybe. Shadur Sanders, maybe. Cam Scatterbo is one. Cam Scatterbo autos sell incredibly well. He's pretty high on the list. Tet McMillan does not. Bryce Young, I doubt it. Like, AR obviously doesn't anymore. Bijan is probably not a $400 10 auto. Genty's probably not a $410 or $400 auto as a 10. $400 for a PSA 10 auto. Jeremiah Love is in a world of his own. Like, bar none, he sells for a ton of money.
Yeah, and which is, I mean, I think it's just more of like him as a prospect and what he does. Obviously, just when you watch him, because like statistically, I know he was getting clowned on where it's like, hey, all these guys had 1,600 plus yards and weren't Heisman finalists. Like I've seen a lot of that chatter on Twitter.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins with 2,000.
Yeah, exactly. All those guys, and it's like, sure, there's some merit, the down year in the Heisman, you could say, but man, just you watch him, he just looks different compared to everyone else. I imagine people are going to have him graded higher than Ashton a year ago as a prospect. He still goes like top 10-ish in mocks, kind of 12-ish or so. So yeah, Jeremiah Love. I don't know if they continue.
Do you believe
to
there's any truth to the rumor around, like obviously you've seen some of his talks around like, yeah, we're preparing for next year. Notre Dame fans think they're going to keep him. You think there's any truth to anything like that, or is this just being the good guy on your way out the door?
Yeah, I feel like it might just be the good guy or just well-coached media, but I mean, it would be like that's a very young team, which is also why I'm upset that they didn't take their bowl games. It's like you have so many guys, you had so many early enrollees, your defense is super young. you bring back a lot of guys. I don't remember their schedule is cake from what I've been told. So, I mean, it would be pretty interesting. But you also have the Jadarian Price factor. Does he declare? Does he come back? I'm also watching that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that would
And I
be
saw some stuff about some
awesome.
like running and some of the running backs in the portal could end up looking at Notre Dame. I think that one was the I think one of the ones I named I saw was the kid at Kansas State, maybe Edwards. I think it might be his name.
Mhm.
So I've
Dylan
seen a
Edwards.
few like running. Yeah, yeah. I've seen a few running backs. Mocked to them. Yeah, in 26 they play Wisconsin, in Green Bay week 1, at Michigan State at Purdue, Navy, Miami, SMU, Stanford, Syracuse, USC. I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, we'll see what USC. We'll get to that in a second on why I think they could be good. But other than that, it's not it's not crazy.
Yeah.
But
So
who's number 3?
three, I'm gonna go with Mendoza, just coming off the Heisman win. I've
Yeah.
I've been stocking auctions all week. Just I do all my usual searches and I see just Mendoza $510 autos, and there's some big stuff ending at auctions pretty soon. Congrats to all the sellers who timed that up. And yeah, I mean just astronomical. Again, we talked about it last week. He was front runner for the Heisman heading into the week. Likely number one pick. Just defeated Ohio State Big Ten championship. Now going into the college football playoffs.
Yep.
You're hitting the perfect trifecta plus with Mendoza prices right now.
Yeah, getting some obviously. There was that 60 minutes thing on IU Signetti. That whole thing came out. Watch the Heisman. Watch the speech. Obviously, I watched the Big Ten title. The dude after the game. I mean, the dude is. We text about it. The dude is quirky for sure. He's he's got some goofiness in him, but I mean, I couldn't help leave that speech and just be like, this dude is just an authentic person and a good human being. Um, Again, big fan of people who are, again, just that authentically themselves. And you can just tell Mendoza is that person. The way he talks about his mom, who's battling MS. Just a good human being. So while I will not root for Indiana in any shape of any word, like any sense of that word, I will definitely be rooting for him at the next level. He definitely seems like a good, like, first class human being. So yeah, especially with when you see guys like Pavia partying at the club afterwards with the inappropriate sign in the club, like that dude, thank goodness that dude didn't win. Thank goodness it was a guy like Mendoza, because he seems a lot more likable. So yeah, but his very, very true sentiment from you. Like, for perspective, Brendan Sorsby Bowman's best autos do $5 to $15. The last Mendoza did 215, a dual relic auto. I think if Brian scrolls up here, we're on card ladder. Dual purple relic auto to 75, $640 for Fernando Mendoza. Like, this dude sells for a ton of money. So yeah, he's got everything going for him right now. Like, we talked about it last week. If you're buying Fernando Mendoza, you're a believer of where Fernando Mendoza is going. You're on that train, because this is not a cheap entry point. Like Brendan Sorsby, like we've talked about that. Like a Lagway, who's probably down. Like Nico Iama leaving, this school again for the third time. Like it's a lot different on guys like that, who the entry point is much, much lower. Mendoza stuff is he's earned it, but you've got to have a lot of real belief to buy in at this point of like where he's going next, because his stuff is through the roof.
Yeah, no, that's a car payment, paycheck, whatever. That's a hefty investment. So best of luck to anyone buying Mendoza. I hope it goes well, because I like Mendoza, as you said, just a very likable guy. So thumbs
Yep.
up. All right.
All right, who's on
Stock
stock down?
stock down. All right, I wanted to revisit this guy. He's been down all year, but it's just Ryan, I've been placing bids that, like, I don't even know if I want the card that bad, but I end up winning it just because it's so cheap. So I'm going Garrett Nussmeier. Some of his stuff, he does
Mm,
have like some okay high end sales. We talked about this earlier on the phone, and it's like, curiosity kills the cat. Sometimes you see the bid and it's like, oh, I wonder what the max is. Let me type in 140. And I won a PSA 10 yellow first auto. For $140 from DC a week or two ago. I won a Campus Stars or the Campus Visit auto for like $20 on ComC. I think there was an orange Campus Stars that did, or Visit, whatever it is, that did like $20 the other day.
Bro,
So
a
stuff is
gold
not.
shimmer PSA 10 auto just did under 150 on auction.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was watching that one. I almost got there,
I bet
but
those were like
I already spent the
400
140 on the
preseason.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, there's some rough Bowman best sales from the newest product that are out there. I mean, it's like $30 for, a purple auto. So,
Brian found a comp. September 13th, Nussmeier Shimmer Gold 1 of 50, 650.
yeah,
Last sale was
that's 75%
147.
off.
Yeah, there was a sale at 650 September 13th.
That's quite the stock down for sure. But now follow me here, Ryan. Now I feel like I was able to buy a lot of the base autos were like 30 to 40 a year ago, and I was able to sell a lot of them at like 100, 110. I still am stuck with a lot of the high end stuffs, and I'm just gonna ride it out. I know a lot of people are like, oh, do you just sell it now? Do you wait for the draft? I don't want to wait that long, but somebody has to declare for the draft. You hear about all these guys. John Mateer looks
Yep.
like he's coming back. Ty Simpson looks like he's coming back. Dante Moore is like a top 3 pick, and they're like, he still might stay. Sam Levitt coming back. There's all these guys. Might we come back to the old trinity of Nussmeier, Aller, and Klubnik,
Klubnik.
and
Yep. Yep.
even
Back to where
Carson
we
Beck?
started. Back to where it all began.
Even a Carson Beck it might be in the play. I mean, now he was number 1 a year ago. So I don't know. I feel like it might come back to old reliable, the big three, the big guys who have always been there. Just a bad team year. I get it. Some injuries here and there, especially with Nussmeier. We shall see.
We talk about this all the time. Like, this is my argument. It will always be my argument around, like, Lenora Sellers and DJ Lagway. Like, guys that are not, cream of the crop. Like, and they put it all together on the field with their team. It doesn't look like it's the most, exciting football. And, they show a couple glimmers with some, like, elite, runs or throws. And you're like, okay, maybe I see it a little bit. I'm a believer that we're going to get to the draft and somebody's got to get drafted, and we're going to tell ourselves why this person is the Drew Aller argument, like 6'5", 240, rocket arm, looks like Josh Allen. Like, we're going to see this story. Zach Wilson was a top 5 pick, for crying out loud. Like, the draft comes around and people are convinced somebody has to be there. Somebody has to be the guy. There's got to be the next guy up. And it's going to happen with these guys. Like, I'm not saying they're all going to go first round. They're not all going to be the number 1 pick, but you're going to see Cade Klubnik fell a little bit because he, didn't have a great year, but this guy's the real deal. He's got all the intangibles. He's going to go sit for a year and then be the next guy, and then his stuff's going to go up. Like, it doesn't make it right. It just means it's, I just believe it to be likely. I just think that these things are going to happen, and people are going to convince themselves that, I heard Todd McShay mock this guy to go, early first round. He's going to be the next big thing. We'll see, but like you said, somebody has to get drafted. If everybody comes back, somebody's got to go pro.
Yeah, yeah. All it takes is one nice throw on pro day to just really take things
Just
off.
one. That's it. Just one.
That's all you need. So, all right. Going to number 2, I wanted to go with some guys who aren't like huge names, but just I'm kind of shocked, maybe a little disappointed. One, Pofele Ashlock. So we were big advocates of Hawaii when the product released, a nice little sleeper team. But some of his stuff, I would have gone in very heavily on him if the product released earlier. I really believed in him. Turns out it was Jackson Harris, the former Stanford, no, maybe Cal, one of the two, former Stanford or Cal guy. He dominates that wide receiver room. Ashlock, a little disappointing, and I'm a little upset that I haven't seen some of these prices. Like, I've seen orange autos go under $20. I think a black gold was around there, and like there's some high-end autos of a pretty solid receiver. I mean, he still had like 600 or 700 yards this season, but I was a little disappointed, and his prices continue to go down. Where it's like, all right, I'm gonna get a save search notification on this guy, just in case.
Yeah, cheap is probably an understatement. Like, gold shimmers do like $20 and blues do $10. Like, it's also kind of surprising to me because, again, if he's a good receiver, Hawaii doesn't have a lot of guys that come out of there. So, I again, obviously I remember the Colt Brennan days when Colt Brennan was like a Heisman, finalist. But usually Hawaii stuff can be sneaky. We talked about them as like one of the teams to keep an eye on. They have Alahado and Ashlock, but yeah, he doesn't sell for a ton. This looks like to me, this could be one of those guys to make a play on some of the better stuff. And like you send it to a ComC, you put it up on eBay because there's not going to be a lot of it. There's not a lot of guys from Hawaii. I think there could be an opportunity to flip, but yeah, he only has 3 cards all time from Bowman when searching on Card Ladder that have sold for over $100, and none have sold for over 200. So one of those is a red. There's obviously no super sale, but yeah, interesting to see. I mean, his 5th highest sale ever is a Sapphire 10 auto, so for $63. So yeah, it definitely seems like they're it definitely seems like his stuff is low.
Yeah, especially when you consider that Micah Alhado returns. I believe Jackson Harris has entered the portal, or there's rumblings that he will. So if Ashlock
Yeah.
stays, he's perhaps the number one target on a very potent offense next year with one of the youngest rising. Like you look at Micah autos right now, like those are still pretty high. So it's like, hey, you get the tandem, nice little duo there, not a bad play. So all right, final one. A guy that I'm just kind of disappointed in. I've been watching his games, and I'm like, man, he seems to be getting less of a workload. He was a 1,000-yard guy last year. Bryson Washington, Baylor running back. His autos are very, very cheap, and I almost fell into the trap where it's like, these shouldn't be that low. I'm going to buy everything. And then they kept going lower and lower and lower. I'm like, all right, I'm going to chill out a little bit. He was a 1,000-yard guy last year as a redshirt freshman. I think he still finished with close to that this year. But they've got another little freshman who's been, getting some more touches. Baylor just disappointing in general. Still the number one passing offense in the Big 12 this season. But I don't know what I want to do with him. His stuff is just so low, though, that it's like, man, I don't know what to do, Ryan.
Yeah, low is probably being generous. $1.25 for base autos. Um, yeah, I mean an orange auto did $20. Yeah, this is gonna be some like deep college football knowledge type play opportunity. This is for those that are guys like you that know this is a 1,000-yard back and has potential. Um, Again, transfer portal, can open up a lot of opportunity, especially on a team that like passes so much. Like, you see that. Like, I think Justice Haynes was a great example. Like, good running back, transfers off that Alabama team, goes to Michigan, dominates. I mean, he had some crazy games. I think he was leader in the country for rushing yards. Like one of the early weeks of the year. 4 or 5 or 6. Obviously gets hurt, but yeah, again, these guys, again, these are talented guys that have opportunities. It just may be elsewhere, especially on a team that throws as much as Sawyer Robertson and Baylor does.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like, if these are some of your guys, I feel like it's definitely worth a shot. I think we're in a great time to buy. It's just I don't know what I want to do. Is he going to hit the portal? So I really gotta look at Bryson and pay attention, get some save starts going. Because at $1.25, there are maybe 70 to 80% of the checklist that I'm going to buy at $1.25 combined shipping, and I'll list it for $3 for crying out loud. So
Yeah,
just doesn't make sense.
combined shipping's the move for sure. All right. Well, we obviously have seen a lot happen already in the portal. Kind of hinted at it earlier, but guys like TJ Lagway, Dylan Raiola enters the portal. I believe Sam Levitt has been confirmed in the portal. Sorsby in the portal. Just some early thoughts from you around the portal, what you're seeing, and then maybe let's get some ideas of like where these guys could end up playing football in 2026.
Yeah, so yeah, yesterday was just bananas. I feel like we just hit, and like the portal technically hasn't opened. I don't think it opens like January 2nd. So why yesterday was like the big day, I don't know, because we got 3 or 4 bangers in a row that just kind of melted everyone's just brain. So I'm very interested because, like you said, let's get some predictions here. There's what I find interesting, card collector too, is that there are not a lot of like high end teams that like truly need a quarterback. Like Dante Moore, sure, we'll wait and see. But like Ohio State, they're set, they're good. And there's just a lot of other teams that like, I guess Indiana, but like then you get to like Georgia Tech, Vandy, your Miami, LSU, some of those programs. But I feel like compared to last year, it was just a huge wide open carousel. It's like Texas, what are they gonna? No, I guess Texas. I guess with Quinn
I
Ewers, he
don't
didn't
know.
know.
I would almost argue the opposite of that. I think you'll have some big name programs that'll take quarterbacks. Like
Okay,
again, big name now or big name ever, right? Florida needs a quarterback.
sure.
Obviously, Lagway's in there. Clemson's gonna need a quarterback. That's a top 10, top 5 team from the last decade, top 10 team from the last decade. I mean, they won multiple national titles. Did Clemson win? Yeah, Clemson won two, right? One with T Law, one. Yeah, they beat Alabama T Law's
Deshaun.
freshman year, and I think Deshaun Watson won one. Yeah,
Yeah.
16 and 18. Yeah, 16 and 18. Yeah, 18 was T Law's freshman year. Shout out to dude, what was that freshman wide receiver that had that insane catch that ended up getting injury prone? That insane catch as a freshman. 5-star kid, 2018 national championship game. Justin Ross. Justin Ross.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Crazy, crazy ball. But
Yeah.
Clemson will need one. I believe LSU will need one, especially
Yeah.
with Lane Kiffin there. Not Nussmeier goes. Lane Kiffin, the reset there. I believe Dante Moore again. He's the top 3 pick. A lot of mocks have him and Mendoza 1-2. That Oregon's a big time school. Dan Lanning does a lot there. The USC one I think is going to be interesting. What happens with Jaden Maivia? I think that'll be a big one. Like I'm gonna guess at this point, Michigan retains Bryce Underwhelm, but we'll see there. What's Penn State doing? Right? I mean, it's one of the top couple teams in the Big Ten. Drew Aller. What's happening next there? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of schools that are gonna need one. Like I don't know. I'm very intrigued. I'm very very intrigued.
Yeah, so here's a list. Okay, now that you mention it, all right. I'm just looking at like the playoff bracket. I'm like, all right, Ohio State, they're good. A&M, probably good. Miami, sure, they need one. Georgia with Bennett, I might get on the Bennett train. Hold up, but Ole Miss, we'll see what happens there. I don't know. Are they going to retain Chambliss? Right. Indiana's good. Alabama probably good. Oklahoma probably bringing back
Indiana's not
McNair.
good. Indiana needs one.
Oh, did
Mendoza's
I say
gone.
Indiana? Alabama, Oklahoma, those two are probably good. Indiana will need one. Tech, maybe Sorsby, and then Oregon. So I guess from the play, I don't know. Maybe I was expecting more parity. But here's a list of teams that I've compiled, and I'll read them off. Indiana, Texas Tech, Oregon, maybe. Miami, Vanderbilt, UVA, Georgia Tech, Clemson. Iowa State, we'll see what Rocco Beck does. Does he follow his head coach to Penn State? Florida State, they always need a quarterback. Florida, Nebraska, Arizona State, Penn State, Tennessee. I don't know if Joey Aguilar is supposed to get his little waiver. I know they've been talking about that on the broadcast. Michigan, we'll see. Auburn, are they going to retain Deuce Knight? Is he coming back? Louisville, and then LSU with Lane Kiffin. So
Yeah,
that's
I
kind of
think
my list.
USC and Oregon are a couple of the bigger ones still on there that I think would add. I don't know if you had Florida on there, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think USC and Oregon are a couple of the interesting ones. I honestly think that, again, if you're asking me to predict, like, I think we agree on the Sorsby one. I think Sorsby ends up at Tech. Seems like a really good fit there. I that to me seems like the one I feel the most sure about is that Brendan Sorsby ends up at Texas Tech. I think the other ones are a little interesting. I'll wait to see where you think they might go, but I think Sorsby to Tech is probably the one we will ultimately agree on.
Okay. Yeah. So if we're going to go there, I think Lagway, LSU
Yeah, I like that a lot.
with,
I've
with, with
I
Lil
saw
Lane
the Lane Kiffin tweet pretty closely to DJ Lagway's announcement that he was leaving. Um, that just feels like the perfect story is for Lagway to go to LSU to follow Lane there. That yeah, I just that would put a lot of eyes on LSU. Year one with Lane Kiffin, former number one recruit, DJ Lagway. Those stories would write themselves for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So I like that one. Sam Levitt is very interesting. I've seen a lot of, was it Florida or Miami, one of the two. That seems certainly plausible. We also have to figure out just what is going to happen just with Michigan in general. And just, I think that's another just big domino because once a head coach leaves
Yeah,
there, then all the coordinators skedaddle or go somewhere else or follow that coach. And then, does Underwhelm stay? I've seen a lot of
yeah.
Twitter Bryce Underwhelm on Arizona State and all that stuff. So, who knows what'll happen there? But yeah, I feel like Levitt's probably in that Florida Miami region, and then that kind of leaves Indiana wide open as well. Rayola,
That
Oregon, I think I've seen as well. So
Yeah, I've seen Raiola to a couple places. The Oregon one makes a ton of sense because I'm a believer Dante Moore is out of there. Um, so I would imagine Oregon probably has a pretty. They're probably going to be, at the high of a lot of people's lists. Like if you want to go to Oregon and Oregon wants you, like a pretty like Oregon, I would imagine would have their choice of a lot of guys. That's a pretty popular destination these days. Dan Lanning seems like a player's coach, and they have a lot of resources up there with obviously Phil Knight and Nike. So Oregon seems like they might get their pick. Raiola seems like a fit there. I've also seen Raiola to like Lincoln Riley and USC. I've seen that mentioned a couple times. I think again Raiola is going to get a big time spot, a more you know recent all time program than like Nebraska. Oregon, USC seem up there. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, obviously Michigan. I know we haven't talked about that. You mentioned their coach leaving. I mean, he didn't leave. He was arrested and fired. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with, Bryce Underwhelm and that school and how many players they lose after, the disaster going on in Ann Arbor right now. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Beck one to Penn State would make a ton of sense. Like, could totally see that following his coach out there. Penn State's got the resources. I think they had 2 guys in their recruiting class. Like Penn State's going to look to rebuild and restart that. I mean, not a rebuild. There's a lot of talent up there, but who's going to come back with, coach leaving and, Allergon and, your preseason number 1, like who comes back? We'll see. Yeah. I think right now, if I'm a betting man, the Lagway to LSU I like a lot. Raiola to Oregon or USC, I would lean towards. I think it's the North Texas kid. I've seen him rumored to IU to follow Mendoza, up there. Man, it's going to be interesting. And again, this is kind of like the draft chatter around this idea that like you don't need some of these guys to play football for their stuff to go up. Like, all you need is a little bit of a rumbling. You need a little chatter. You just need their name in the media to say, DJ Lagway is the next guy for Lane Kiffin. He's going to make him a Heisman finalist. You just need that storyline. You don't need it to actually happen. In the card world, it's just all speculative. It's just, here it is. Lagway's to LSU. LSU's got these guys. They got the number 1 athlete, the number 1 recruit in the class. Lane Kiffin, man, he's turning them around. Go Tigers. Here it is. Like, we're ready. It's going to write themselves. And then Lagway stuff will start to be popular. It'll sell. Raiola goes to Oregon or USC. Either big market resources. They're going to bring in other weapons. They've got great coaches. Here it is. Here we go. Dylan Raiola time. He's back. He's the real deal. He was the number 1 kid. Like, they're not going to talk about Dylan Raiola committing to multiple colleges and going to different high schools and, interception and, all those things you get from Lagway. They're not going to talk about those things. You just need a storyline. You just need something to sell itself, and you'll see the sales that will follow. A lot of opportunity right now. As eyes are on the college football playoff, to me, there's a lot of opportunity in the card market right now on guys that have nothing to do with the CFP right now.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That is definitely why I love the off season. And it's just like, yeah, these guys have not played any football and things are changing and it just gives guys new life. We saw it I could not sell Justice Haynes last year. I had a lot of gold sapphire autos. I couldn't sell it for 20-30 bucks and I was ready to take some offers, and he commits to Michigan and his stuff triples. So it's just, you never know what happens with guys like this. Like this morning, I'm seeing Caden Hauser turn down $1 million from East Carolina. That's a guy I've said, if he enters the portal, I don't think anybody cares. And now this guy might have a market. So just crazy to see like stuff like that. I love the dart throws. And I feel like, Ryan, I have a hypothesis. Maybe this isn't a hypothesis, but I have a theory.
Okay.
I think about like 80 to 90% of all guys in the Bowman University checklist have at least one spike in their cycle of cards. Like I think there's always some sort of spike in at some point in their career. Some sort of hype. Because going back off of like storylines and such, I just saw it like I love the offseason again because like 8 months of just like, hey, after the college football playoffs, we're gonna get way too early top 25 poll, and then you get to spring practice, and you have like a portal thing, all the returning production charts and all that math. That is a great thing for the card market where it's like, oh my God, Virginia Tech returns 96% of their starting production by all the Kyron drones. I fell into that trap for sure, hand up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just get all that. Then you get a revised way too early top 25 after the spring portal and after spring ball, and then you go into the Heisman and then preseason rankings. You get all these outlets have to talk about something during just the absolute brutal dead period of offseason in college football, that they're just making all these lists. My top quarterback, my top running back, my top Heisman finalist. Here's how I rank the
Yeah.
conference. And so I love all of that hype, all of it. Give it to me.
A lot of opportunity ahead. Definitely excited for it. But we do actually have to play some games this week. There are actually college football games that are happening. Round number 1. It sounds great to say that, I don't care as much about the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl or the Barstool Bowl or, the Gabe Card Sacks Bowl. Unfortunately, that's not on the top of my list. But the CFP is here. Round 1 is here. 4 teams are playing on Friday and Saturday this week. I'm curious. Who do you have moving on to the second round this weekend?
All right. I'll start with the top part of the bracket, Oregon, JMU. I will go, let's go Oregon 38-7. I just don't know if it'll be very close, and I don't
Yeah, it
know,
won't.
does Oregon, at that point, it's not like at the end of the season where you need style points. You go in, get your win, call the dogs off, and get home, get safe, and all of that. I don't think that they'll, completely put it on them. Although, Ryan, last week I said, hey, if a JMU beats like a Oregon, like that would hit bigger than like a 16-1 seed. But it's like, you got to think about it like the Fiesta Bowl, Boise State, Oklahoma, the App State and Michigan, like something like that. That's bigger than all of us. So like in that moment, if it's a one possession game with a couple of minutes left, I'm putting my JMU cap on and I'm going Dukes right there. But
Nah.
I just hope that this is just a confirmation for all of us to just hey, let's revise this playoff committee criteria and all of this, and
Mm-hmm.
let's put the big dogs in there.
Yep. Yeah, maybe Dan Lanning takes it easy. So, if he ever gets in the situation again, he gets JMU at home in December, rather than like a Notre Dame team who could have slipped in, or a Vandy. So, yeah, I don't anticipate that being close. I think the Dante Moore top 5 pick chatter is only going to increase. I think, they lost one game, number 1 team in the country. They've kind of been forgotten about with Ohio State and Indiana, being undefeated and being the top 2 teams in the Big Ten. I think Oregon and Georgia, and one on the top, one on bottom half of the bracket, are the 2 teams that definitely, I think have been under the radar. I think Texas Tech has been just so dominant on defense. Like, that team's got a little bit more chatter than an Oregon or a Georgia. So I'm intrigued, but I think Oregon is going to boat race JMU.
Yeah.
Like, ugly, 49-7, 49-10, 49-14, like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But you did say something last week that I've been thinking about a lot. The path to, if Oregon wins the national chain, or like just the path to get there, you've got Oregon, then you
Yep.
go Tech, then you go Indiana most likely, and then Ohio State or Georgia. I'm like, that's a legacy run. You're beating 1, 2, 3, and 4 at that point. So
Yeah, I mean, it's almost
crazy.
like Ohio State beating, Texas, Tennessee, Oregon, and Notre Dame. I mean, it's, definitely going to be up there with, the Buckeyes. Shout out to Go Bucks.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, they're still reigning national champs. So I'll give that to you. All right, Alabama, Oklahoma. I want neither team to win. I'm actually what's the over under on this? 40.5. Give me the under on this. I don't care about either team to be honest.
No
Um,
way.
I I will go. God, I really want neither team to win, Ryan. I'm gonna go Oklahoma. You know what? Alabama's just been sputtering. I got to get off that train. I get it. I'm a Ty Simpson guy, but I'm just like, you know what? Just they've been limping into the end of the season, into the playoffs. Haven't looked great. I'm gonna go Oklahoma there. I guess I trust them a little bit more. But yeah, give me
Nope.
the under
No
on that
way.
one. Easy. This is gonna be
No
just
way.
two coughing
Take the
babies.
team again. This team doesn't have Nick Saban. I get that, but this is a program that has been there, has been in big games, has done it before. I realize Nick Saban's not coming out of the coming off the ESPN game day to lead them into battle, but that team, man. maybe a Ryan Williams legacy game incoming for you with your guy Ty Simpson, Jeremy Bernard. Like they've got him. I'm just give me Ty Simpson. Mateer looked really good pre-injury. I know it's in Norman. We'll see. I just give me Alabama. I don't think this is as low. I think that I'm taking the over on this. I think last time it was like 23-21 when you were in town, 26-23, something like that. It was a pretty low scoring game. I think it was 23-21. You know, Oklahoma went to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama, but I don't know. I think this is the Alabama revenge game. I'm not saying they're going to win many, but give me Alabama to advance and take on IU.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. It's hard to beat a team twice, especially like Alabama. But yeah, I think it's time to jump off the Alabama ship. So I'm gonna go Oklahoma.
Yep.
Just give me 21-13. Something small.
God, don't
Yeah.
give me that.
Okay. All right. Well, next one, Ole Miss Tulane. This is another. Well, I don't know. See, this is interesting. And we also
This
have to
is an
consider,
interesting game. This is an
but
interesting game.
what we also have to consider as well is Oregon has lost both of their coordinators, both their offensive and defensive coordinator. So might it
Yep.
be a little sluggish. So I guess don't be shocked. I guess if they do give them a little game, if they start a little slow, they got to figure things out. But just Ole Miss, all the drama that happened with Lane Kiffin. I don't even know who's coaching the game anymore. If they were able to get I think their OC Weiss is gone, but their DC came back. I have no clue. I've never been a huge fan of Ole Miss this entire season. Tulane is just kind of there. I'm not super high on them, not super fond. John Summerall's coaching both teams right now. He's both Tulane and Florida. His Twitter picture is both like he's got a split hat. I don't know what's going on with Tulane. I'm just gonna go Ole Miss though. I know it was like 55-10 the first time they played. I'm just gonna go Ole Miss. Minus 17.5, sure. I'll take it. It'll be give me 34-10. Something like that.
Yeah, just give me the team with the better players. This is again a muddy situation for both teams. You know, again Tulane coach leaves, but he's still there. Again, it's like Heartline at Ohio State. I don't know how you can do both. I don't understand that. You know, you're trying to build something in a whole other state, whole different area, but also focused on your current situation. Like it just seems impossible to kind of do both. Ole Miss in the same boat, losing Kiffin the way they did, and the saga that was, and him dragging it out. But Ole Miss is, you know, that they have SEC talent. Give me Ole Miss at home. Like I don't anticipate this being a close game.
All right. Well, A&M Miami. I think I see this a lot more clearly. Maybe I fell off of my Carson Beck in week 4 was my Heisman guy. I'm like, they're not going to lose to anyone. Mario Cristobal can lay a stinky, but you know what? I'm still going to ride with it. But A&M, I've just trusted a little bit more. I know their schedule's a little fraudulent, but just the defense. I think they lost their OC, Colin Klein. Now he's at K-State, so we'll see how that works out. But I'm just going to rock with A&M. I feel really good about them. Marcel Reed, I've said this all year. He still has not played his best game yet. So maybe he's just kind of there, like, which is weird because I saw at the end of the year they were like Marcel Reed Heisman campaign. I'm like, he's done nothing, I think, to even get himself close to the platform of such. But yeah, I feel like Texas A&M, I trust them at home. Miami, but Ruben Bain can change this game in an instant on any single snap, which is terrifying to think about. So I'm not shocked if Miami wins, but I still feel pretty good about A&M. I feel I feel way better about A&M than I do Oklahoma, Bama, and just any of the other games, I guess. Aside, well, I guess the other two are blowout.
Isn't A&M the team that hasn't played like the top half of the SEC? Isn't this the one that like has played only like the bottom half of the SEC?
Yes.
Yeah, they're at home, and again, I think that matters a ton in the college football playoff. The first round being at home, I know is electric in Columbus last year from friends that went. It was crazy when Tennessee came to town. So I definitely think that will matter. It is a noon game. This is a noon game. Like the scheduling's not very good. The primetime game Saturday night is JMU Oregon. So like why we didn't get Miami Texas A&M, I'm not sure, but it is a noon game. I don't know. I don't know if Notre Dame's or if Texas A&M's really been tested. I mean, Notre Dame is one of them. I get they beat them. That was early. That was like week 2, week 3. I just feel like Miami, I don't know, man. They both got dogs. Like for sure, I want to say Miami so bad because I think Miami can win, but it's like, are you getting the best? Which Carson Beck are you getting? I wouldn't be surprised if either team win. This is a toss-up game for me. It's what is it? Kyle Field in A&M. Like, man. I think if with my heart I would take Miami. I think with my head and my money I would pick A&M. This is a complete toss-up for me. Because it is at home and because I probably trust Marcel Reed a little bit more, I would probably pick A&M, but I think in my heart of hearts I want Miami. So, this sucks. If I'm betting with my money, I'm if we had a wager on this, I would bet on A&M.
Yeah, no, it's a close one. You can make an argument for either, but yeah, I think A&M. I just again to your point, like Missouri, Florida, LSU, those were like their best wins. They didn't really have a Georgia, Bama, anybody else, Vandy even. I don't think so.
Vandy, yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a good one though. Kind of a bummer that it is. That's a 10 a.m. game for me. Kind of not ideal.
You said that's a 10 a.m. game for you?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, kind of disappointing.
All right. Well, we'll have more to talk about next week. I'm sure more guys will get in the portal. I'm sure we'll recap the first round of games. We'll look ahead to the next round of games on New Year's Eve. And yeah, New Year's Day. We'll look at that next week. But for now, that's all I got, guys. All right. Shout out to our guy Evan for coming on the pod. That was a fun listen. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for the Hobby Awards. See who's taking home some hardware in the first ever Hobby Awards. And then our guy Gabe Card Stack. It's going to be fun to see what happens in the next 6 to 8 weeks in the college football landscape, but definitely some opportunity in the card space there if you're making some plays. But big time release week. I said it in the beginning of December when we talked about this is a big month for product. We've got Chrome Update. We've got NT Collegiate coming this week. We've got Chrome Basketball coming. Like this is a big month. This week is a nice release week. NT Racing, Cosmic Baseball, Heritage High Number, Ingrained Icons Hockey, Topps Chrome Basketball. It says Chrome Labubu 10th anniversary. I thought that was going to get pushed. We'll see if that actually comes out, but Labubu Chrome, interesting. I know we talked about that previously with Elizabeth over at PSA. We talked about potentially grading, Labubus and, what that could ever look like. Doesn't sound like it's going to happen. And then shortly after that, I think Topps announced the Labubu trading cards. Looks like those could be coming out. UEFA Champions League Definitive Soccer. That Definitive's one of the premier brands for Topps. So excited to see what that looks like in the soccer space. NT Collegiate Football, one of my favorite college football products of the year, up there with Bowman Chrome U. Jeremiah has patch autos in it. Caleb Downs has patch autos. A lot of Buckeyes in that set. Merlin Chrome UEFA Club Competition Soccer and Rookies and Stars Football. Rookies and Stars Football, underrated football product, has a lot of rookies and inserts. Surprise, I know. Rookies, inserts, parallels. I love a product like that doesn't rely on autos and jerseys to make the money back. Rookies and Stars is one of those products. So that'll drop this week. Big episode. Shout out to y'all for listening once again. But for now, that is all I got. Peace, guys.